We see a similar critique of the shallowness of our postmodern landscape in the American philosopher Frederick Jameson. His essay, turned into a book, Postmodernism or the Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism, published in 1984, has been called the most discussed article of the 1980s. For Jameson, there is a particular reason why consumer culture is shallow. He writes that our postmodern culture is schizophrenic. It jumps from place to place and relies on, quote, a new depthlessness, which finds its prolongation both in contemporary theory and in a whole new culture of the image, and the weakening of historicity, both in our relationship to public history and in the new forms of our private temporality. What this means is that culture has become so shallow that our relationship to the depth of history, the history that produced us, has been lost. Culture is fragmented because capitalism is fragmented. We are detached from everything because we have to be. Styles change, trends change, conditions change, jobs change, information changes quicker than we can ever keep up. And so we're psychologically schizophrenic, frantically trying to keep up. Jameson famously compares Van Gogh's A Pair of Boots from 1887, a modernist painting, with Andy Warhol's postmodern 1980 diamond dust shoes. He argues that Van Gogh's shoes are connected to a real world. He says, the whole missing object world, which was once the shoe's lived context, the heavy tread of the peasant woman, the loneliness of the field path, the hut in the clearing, the worn and broken instruments of labour in the furrows and at the hearth. But now, on the other hand, quote, Andy Warhol's diamond dust shoes evidently no longer speaks to us with any of the immediacy of Van Gogh's footgear. Indeed, I'm tempted to say that it does not really speak to us at all. Nothing in this painting organises even a minimal place for the viewer. We're witnessing the emergence of a new kind of flatness or depthlessness, a new kind of superficiality. He says that the same process is visible in our broad, popular cultural understanding of the Vietnam War. It's shaped not by reality, not by real history, real politics or real understanding, but by Hollywood films, protest music, flashy television news. Like Warhol's shoes, it's disconnected, more imaginary than real. The Marxist thinker David Harvey writes more about the economic foundations of this depthlessness. If you study the supply chains of any fast fashion company, any tech company, in fact the majority of consumer goods, you'll find that the manufacturing process is fractured, outsourced, subcontracted, divided into small parts and separate companies across the globe. A button made here, a screen there, a screw in one place and a thread in another. For Harvey and Jameson, these facts of material production, what's going on underneath, how the economy is structured, is the reason the culture that results from it is so shallow. It doesn't have time to be anything but, and is constantly pushing for new trends. By the time a story, a news item, a television show, a piece of art, or even a topic of discussion is produced, the world is moving on, manufacturing new product lines in new places, based on new ideas. Harvey sees our postmodern consumer society as a result of the shift from Fordism, vertically integrated factories, all owned and controlled by a single company, overseeing each part of the process, to what he calls flexible accumulation. Flexible accumulation is defined by outsourcing and subcontracting to break up the process into smaller bits, offsetting risks, making smaller companies compete with one another for contracts so as to get the lowest price, being able to drop a manufacturer and hire a new one as soon as needed when a style or trend changes. This leads to a fractured and segmented economic system across the globe, and a fractured and segmented culture as a result. New communications technologies, GPS, data centers, the internet, electronic banking, etc. add to the speed and the flexibility of the system, the rate at which things can change. Harvey writes that the mobilization of fashion in mass as opposed to elite markets provided a means to accelerate the pace of consumption not only in clothing, ornament and decoration, but also across a wide swath of lifestyles and recreational activities, leisure and sporting habits, pop music styles, video and children's games, and the like. Thank you very much. And so lifestyles are adopted and discarded at the same rate as new trends. Nothing is around long enough to be examined, understood or identified with any depth. We become detached, postmodern, lost. Fashion trends are adopted, mimicked, stolen and ripped off. Fads and countercultures are co-opted, profited from, then discarded. All that's solid melts into air, as Marx wrote. Everything is disposable, single use. Napkins, cups, cameras, batteries and pens are used up and thrown away. Because everything is fast, a quick turnover in images follows. Sponsorship, television styles, new cars, new styles in cinema and literature, new memes and new celebrities. Harvey illustrates how this shift between integrated Fordist factories and global flexible accumulation has affected our culture with the proliferation of art galleries. He says that in New York in 1945, there were just a handful of galleries. Now, 150,000 artists in New York claim professional status, and there are more than 700 galleries, producing more than 15 million artworks across a decade. And they're all bound up in the production of new images that can be exchanged and co-opted by our consumer culture, which ultimately is about manufacturing and moving things on as quickly as possible. The problem, he says, is capital flight, deindustrialization of some regions and the industrialization of others, the destruction of traditional working class communities as power bases in class struggle. Okay, let's summarize.